In this episode, we'll demonstrate how to install NVM, the Node Version Manager. If you search NVM in Google, the first result will be the Node Version Manager for POSIX, which basically just means Linux, Mac, anything Unix-based. So if you're on a Mac, we'll choose this first version here, and if you're on Windows, we'll choose this second version here. But in this episode, we'll demonstrate how to install and use the Mac version. So let's go down to the installation instructions, installing and updating. Okay, so here's the recommended approach using curl. I know when I got started with web development, I would see commands like this and I would think, what on earth does this mean? So let me break this down quickly. Curl means download this file. So this here is a script. Let's open this up. The first part, curl, means download this file, and then the pipe operator and then bash means run this file with the bash language. So if this were a node file or a JavaScript file, you could do pipe node and it would try to execute it as a node file. So it's going to download this script and then it's going to run it as a bash file, which is basically going to install Node Version Manager, and a bunch of magic that we don't need to know about. So let's do that now. I'm going to copy this, and you'll go to your terminal, and you'll paste this in. Replit lets me emulate a terminal without having to manually uninstall and then reinstall NVM locally on my laptop, which I don't want to do right now. And we're going to run that command. And it's downloading it. The installation is complete. A few things I'd like to point out here. Here there's a helpful message. You currently have modules installed globally with NPM. These will no longer be linked with the active version of Node when you install Node with NVM. So from here on out, NVM is going to manage all of our Node versions. That means when you npm install with the -g, the global flag, it's going to be managed by this NVM managed version of Node. That means any previous modules you installed with npm install -g have been kind of wiped out. So if you want those back, you'll have to redo that for each version that you're using. Usually you're only using one version at a time, so that's not too big of an issue, but just expect if you have ESLint or Pretty or anything like that installed globally, you'll have to reinstall that. And then the other thing here, that we can simply close and reopen the terminal, and then it'll load NVM, so let's do that now. Okay, I've now closed my tab and reopened it, so now we should be able to type NVM, and that's the same as typing nvm --help, which gives us all of the options here. Let's just focus on the most important ones. So nvm ls shows us what versions we currently have. So it's got system, it's got IO.js, node stable, unstable. Let's just ignore all of these. We would like to install some new versions. And here are really the most important commands you really need to worry about. Install, use, run is a way you can run a Node application or a script with just a certain version, which is kind of cool. And then you can alias your defaults. So we'll demonstrate some of those now. So it looks like the system currently has version 10 installed. I want to install version 12. So nvm install 12. And it's installing version 12.18.3. Looks like that's the latest version within 12. And it's creating an alias for us, aliasing default to 12. So now if I do nvm ls again, you can see we've got version 12 installed. The default alias is mapped to 12. Great. So now if I do node-v, we have version 12. Fantastic. Now I want to live on the bleeding edge. So what if I want 14 too? nvm install 14. So you may have noticed that it didn't show that alias command because it detects that 12 was the first version we installed. So let's see. So we have 12, we have 14, and default is still set to 12. So that's helpful. So what does default mean here? Default means anytime you open up a new tab, that's what's going to be loaded by default. So you can easily switch back and forth by using nvm use. If I want to go back to 12, so I'm now using version 12, nvm use 14. And anytime I close my tab and reopen it, it'll go back to that default version. So say my team is upgraded to version 14 and I want to set that as the default. Do nvm alias default. So I'm going to alias this to this version. So I'm going to alias default to 14. So now all of a sudden, default is 14, and I can do nvm use default if I want to as well. And we don't need to worry about these names. These are all the LTS code names, so these are also aliased. Erbium is the code name for version 12. You could do nvm use LTS Erbium. Personally, I've never found that very useful. I'll just go back to default. In summary, NVM is incredibly useful for managing different versions of Node and is especially helpful if you want to try new features, you want to ensure that your app is running well on the latest version as well as the current version. NVM helps solve all those problems. If you go to nvm-help, these are really the most important commands. Install, use, and alias are the ones I just demonstrated. There's others here if you want to use those. And as a final reminder, after you install NVM or after you install a new version of Node using NVM, you may need to globally reinstall some of your global modules like Pretty or ESLint or whatever you have installed globally. That's it. Good luck.